Hi, welcome to another Tea Time Tuesday with your host, Sean Catfish Wilson. And for today's tea, it's going to be an infusion. So first we're going to start off with lemongrass. We're going to do 2 scoops of lemongrass. Okay, we're going to get some hibiscus. We are going to do 1 scoop of hibiscus. And then we're going to take some stevia leaf. And we are going to do 1 scoop of stevia leaf. There. Then we're gonna take stevia leaf. We're gonna, or the mixture, we're gonna mix it around. Gonna give it a nice smell. Love the smell of that lemongrass. Go, we're gonna, that ought to be good. All right. There you go. We're going to put some hot water in. All right. Shout out board time. We're going to Gonzo's, Bluminati Ninja, Radina's Local Taste Better, Victoria May, The Quiet Listener, Women Carry Knives, A Therapeutic Edge, blah blah, Crossover Paranormal Society, Do Something Kind for Somebody, Ellen's Oolong from Ellen's Planted Teas. Kitty with a Knife, Hug-a-moo, 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 Gypsy and the Vanilla Gorilla. Catching Them Fish Outdoors, Big Red EDC, Danny Days Homestead, Big Tiny's Outdoors, Grumpy Grunt, My Bad Adventures, Spirit Brothers UK, Yolnan's Edge, Gal's Southern Living, Anything is Possible, Galaxy Girls Coffee, The Flysmith, EDCQ, The Sunfish King, Metisfaction, the Squirrel King. Also check out Squirrel's Magnet Fishing, Smoky Mountain Knife Works, ODC for EDC, Off the Hook Outdoors for custom soft plastics for bass and panfish. Check out Off the Hook Outdoors, Laugh Channel. On the Wild Side, if you're ever in the Manhattan, Kansas area, check out On the Wild Side. Wild Japan, Hog Deer 79, Hunting, Fishing, Taxidermy. Chillin', Indiana, Jailbait and Tackle, Lefty EDC, Some Old Man Outdoors, True Budget EDC, Angling Spiders, Knives Fast, Zach Stuff, Matt's Fishing Mission, and another Sunfish King. All right. So, gonna have to let this brew a wee bit longer. Hello, I love you. Aw, you're such a good boy. You're such a good boy. Yes, you are. Smells interesting. Gotta let it brew. So, let me tell you about my PB flathead catfish for tea time and a story. So I was fishing Blackjack Creek near St. George, Kansas, which connects to the Kaw River or the Kansas River, however you want to put it. Neither way is incorrect. And I was fishing at the junction between the Kansas and the Blackjack Creek. And Blackjack Creek, it's normally average about maybe 2 inches deep, if that. Lots of little minnows in it, about 1 to 2 inches long, maybe 3-inch minnows if you're lucky. There are some holes in there that are knee deep, but the water is really cold and it's far enough upstream that no big fish are gonna get in there, even if it, well, maybe if it floods, but I think they would find their way back before it got too shallow. But it's pretty far up in the creek spots. And anyways, one day it was flooded there. The bank of the Kansas was at the top of the banks or the shoreline. The creek was flooded in, and on the side of the creek I was fishing, there's these big cottonwood trees that are probably 40, 50 foot tall, really big in diameter, and they're right up against the bank. So, and I use fire line, and there's a lot of coverage there, and there's the roots of the tree, the water kind of carved up underneath it, so when it floods in there, the water will be under the bank where you're fishing. It's raining out. And on the other side, there's a whole bunch of just small plants and stuff that live happily near the edge of the shoreline. And they had about 6 inches to a foot sticking up out of the water, and they were still green because the river just freshly flooded, so it didn't kill off any of the stuff. And I went out to Potawatomi State Lake 2 beforehand and caught me some green sunfish, bluegills, and a few long-eared sunfish. I try not to keep long ears for bait because they're really pretty, so I don't like using them. So I was one rod I had out in about the middle of it. There's some logs down in there, so it's probably pretty close to some logs, and I had a pretty decent sized bait on. It was probably about the size of my hand or a little bit bigger, maybe close to the size of the average cell phones nowadays, lengthwise. So I stuck him out in the middle. Then I took about a 3-inch green sunfish and I smashed it to get the blood and juices flowing of the fish to make more scent, because on the river I could have caught blues, flatheads, or channels. I was going for both. I was going mainly for flathead, but I always like to keep a channel cat rod out too when I'm catfishing. That way, increase your chances of getting a fish. So I have my casted the smashed bluegill against the weed line and waited about, I don't even think it was 15 minutes, and my line takes off. I got a bait runners on my reels. I had the Akuma on, and it was actually on this rod behind me right here. Had a 30-pound fire line on, which is what I normally put on a lot of my rods because it's a really good braided line. And rod takes off, the fish starts going. Had a friend reel in my other one so I didn't get my lines twisted around because they were fairly close. My friend had a couple lines out too, but they were far enough away that I wasn't worried about, hopefully not worried about tangling in them. I didn't, which was good. Then I get him close to the my side of the shore, and he decides to go up underneath the bank, and all these roots and stuff, sitting there fighting him through that. And right before I caught it, another friend of mine showed up just to say hi, and he happened to have a dip net with him, or drop net. I mean, not dip net. Or some people know it as a crab net. He had his drop net with him to drop down long distances. I had mine, but his was more easier accessible than mine. So get this fish wore out to where we can hopefully net him. And he gets in there. We get him in there. We're trying to raise him, and then the net gets caught on the roots and stuff. So one of us had to lean down the bank and kind of. Luckily, it was close enough to where you could reach down barely and loosen up or get that net unsnagged. So got one friend pulling up the net, got me rolling in my line, and then get it up. The second we get it out, another friend comes and grabs it out of the net, unhooks it for me, which is cool. He's like, "Yeah, check this thing out. A nice fish, Sean." Like, yeah. So he grabs the scales, and his scales were way off. Got my scales, and he ended up being 58 pounds, and I believe it was a post-spawn flathead because the head was real big, but the body was real skinny, so that's what makes me think that believe it was a post-spawn flathead, because the male flatheads, they will hide in the hide in holes and stuff, and they will guard the eggs of the flathead catfish that the females lay. The male will sit there and guard them for until they hatch, and I believe they'll stay there a couple weeks after, a week or two after they hatch, so they're probably there for about long enough to become a skinnier fish. So if he wouldn't have, if he was a fat flathead, full body and stuff, he probably would have been about a 70-pounder, but get him weighed, get a few pictures taken with him, then release him back in the water. The hook I was using was probably an 8-aught Gamakatsu octopus circle hook. It was far enough back. It could have been a 5-aught too, but I can't remember. It's probably an 8-aught since I was flathead fishing primarily, so I normally keep 8-aughts on, but a 5-aught will catch a big flathead too, because I've caught them blues and flats up in the 30-40 pound range with 5-aught hooks. And the world record was caught off of a little crappie jig, if I'm not mistaken, for flathead out of Wolf Creek Reservoir, or Elk Creek Reservoir. I've never been there, but it's a place in Kansas. So, and here's the learning thing from this story. If you're fishing a flooded river that's recently flooded, try to cast along the shoreline, just a little bit of ways from the weeds, or I actually think I got about right next to them, enough to where my bait was near him, but it wasn't gonna snag in the plants and stuff. Well, they're not weeds because they're meant to be growing there. And also, never underestimate a small bait on how big of a fish will catch, because sometimes elephants like peanuts. Cosmo, I love you. Alright, now it's time to taste my tea. Ooh. This is delicious. This is really delicious. It tastes kind of like a fruit punch. Definitely picking up the berry tartness flavor of the hibiscus, and you're definitely picking up the lemongrass flavor. This one would probably be really good cold, and you're definitely getting the sweetness of the stevia leaf in here. So now with herbal infusions, you want to let them set longer than to say like a normal black tea, white tea, oolong, green teas. Because if you let tea set too long, it'll start to get more bitter over time. Unless you like that flavor, then go for it. Cheers. please don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe if you're not subscribed. I've been noticing on my analytics there's a lot of people that view my channel that aren't subscribed, so hit the like, hit the subscribe if you haven't already. I very much appreciate it. And if it wasn't for you all, the viewers, I would probably still be doing this out of a hobby like I am now. I'm not making money off of it yet, but it's the viewers that push me on to keep me wanting to make videos and more videos and do my fishing lives, which have been doing decent. So, peace and long life, my friends.